What's up, y'all? It's Shuffle, and in this video I'm going to talk about the 10 top best pairings, at least that I could think of with the help of you, the humble viewer, of Darkest Dungeon 2. I don't know if that sentence made sense, but we're picking the top 10 pairs. And the reason I like to pick pairs in this game is because in terms of team building, this is how I approached it in pretty much both games, is I usually take two characters and I try and think of how they synergize, and then I build around those two. And so that's what we're doing today. I'm gonna show you 10 duos that I like and that a lot of you recommended as well. Some of these were recommended repeatedly, and that just shows you how good they are. And yeah, so without further ado, we'll start with the one that came up the most, and that's Plague Doctor and Flagellant. These two were really good together in the first game because the two of them are able to just destroy the backline two enemies very quickly with damage over time. And since there were stuns and stuff that were easier to pull off, in the first game, P could keep them locked down while they bled out, essentially. And they do the same thing in this pretty much. And so there are a couple ways to do it. You can do Maniac or Exanimate, but if you want to go super like Exanimate and stuff like that, you can do Alchemist. But what makes them so good together is that they synergize really well. So you have a lot of blight damage, and that can be very powerful. And so that enables stuff like Necrosis. Sorry, I'm building as we go here. So you can run something like this, and you get blight on everything, hit a big necrosis turn, could be really nice. And these two are really good to just build around. You can slap in whatever tank and third person you want, and this'll, or fourth I guess, but this will function very well. You don't even need a tank, honestly. Flagellant can still do it, but you know, any frontliner, any third or ranked fourth person or whatever, and these two will do fine. Tons of blight, tons of healing, a lot of synergy, very, very strong together still, which is cool. Next pair we're going to talk about are the two rogues. So Highwayman and Grave Robber. And let's see, let's run something like this. And so with these two, what makes them very strong is that they, especially with these two paths, so Deadeye and Sharpshot, they are really good at reaching any target possible. You know, it doesn't matter where they are in the field, they have an option, they'll do some good damage. Plus, they have a lot of ways to move themselves. So Grave Robber has 3 different movement skills. Highwayman has 2, so you have like point blank shot, for example, to push yourself out of the front. And then Duelist Advance to push yourself forward. So any path, honestly, does work pretty well for these two. It's just, you know, what are the other two characters doing? And the two of them together put out so much damage. I'm saying that with Grave Robber too, go figure, but the two of them together put out a lot of damage, and so the rest of your team just has to keep them alive, essentially. And so I like running them together a lot. It's very fun. They have a lot of flexibility. They can do a lot of stuff that kill enemies, and that is very cool. Next, we'll talk about another duo that's been around since the first game, and that is Leper and Jester. For pretty much the same reason the two were good together before, and that was that Leper inherently has accuracy issues and he's slow, and Jester is faster and can give Leper accuracy. That's how it was in the first game. Second game works pretty much the same. There's no normal accuracy stat anymore, but Leper blinds himself while attacking and at the start of combat as a passive. And Jester can feed Leper combo with a lot of his moves like Razor's Wits, upgraded Fade to Black, Solo. You know, there are ways for Jester to set combo for Leper so he can ignore his own blind, which really increases his damage output because he doesn't have to spend a turn in between or items or whatever to cure the blind. So they work very well together. And of course, Jester has Encore, which everyone appreciates. If you want to run something like this, I would suggest going damage with Leper if you're trying to feed him combo tokens. So either Tempest or to an extent Monarch, but I wouldn't recommend Monarch. And for Jester, you can run something very basic like this, which is most of your starter skills, or you can run the Finale loop. So you'd have to upgrade Encore, but then what happens is, since all these have 2 turns or less to cool down, you can always go Encore, Solo, and then Finale in whatever order you start with. So that's what makes that really good too. So that's our 3rd pair. Our next one, go figure. Here comes Plague Doctor coming back. And you can put her up in 3 or 4. Actually, this is pretty flexible. So the other one's a Cultist. And there are a few things you can do with them. Like if you run the Warlock path, which is less damage or less HP, more range damage, you can put them all the way back into rank 4. And you can run Alchemist. So the same setup we had before. And what makes these two really good together is that you can have a ton of range damage. Actually, let's put on Volnax. So they can both hit the 2 backline enemies together, much like when you have Flagellant in the party. So you have Artillery and then Plague Grenade. And so you can kill a backline pair of enemies in 2 turns, if that, you know, especially if you crit. And that's really good. And then on top of that, Occultist is flexible enough with his debuffs that it can help the other damage dealers on the team, but also Plague Doctor doesn't really need vulnerable and stuff like that. And he always has a huge, you know, single target hit in Burning Stars if you end up needing that. And that's just one example. You can build these two, you know, a different way. You could put Occultist up front, run Ritualist or Aspirant, probably Aspirant for this one. And then you can run like Surgeon Plague Doctor. And in that case, you know, you have just whatever else you want to put on. But you can have a really good melee build. And you can run, actually still run stars sometimes with Aspirant, but yeah, so you could run the curses. You could swap into Anamnesis. So there's a lot of stuff you can do, and I guess even Binding Shadows, you can run something like this. So they are flexible in where you can put them in the party. They have multiple paths that work together, multiple playstyles, and they're pretty flexible. So it's fun. Whereas with Plague Doctor and Flagellant, you kind of want to stack Blight. With these two, you can do whatever you want for the most part. So really fun combo. And even though Cultist isn't the greatest character, it's nice to run him, you know, just in comps in general. It's just fun. Having anyone that can help you run him more easily is nice to have. And our next one, we're going to keep Occultist, is going to be Occultist and Leper. So for pretty much the same reason as the Occultist Jester, or not Occultist, Leper Jester combo. And that is the fact that, actually you could run Weakening too. Occultist is faster than Leper, and so he is more likely to go first, and you can use Daemon's Pull. Right, it's demons apparently. I've been getting corrected that you pronounce it demon even though there's an A in it. So you can use Demon's Pull, and that not only gets rid of corpses, so Leper doesn't have to wait for targets. You know, you get rid of the front corpses and bring them, the back rank people up to Leper. It also combos them, so that helps his blind get mitigated. And that's pretty much the extent of it. Is it's just another nice alternative to have someone to feed Leper kills, and you have some range options to cover the spots that Leper has trouble hitting. And Leper's a pretty solid tank if you want to go that way. And so Occultist can safely focus on going like Burning Stars and stuff like that, Chaotic Offering, lower HP from Warlock, that type of stuff if Leper is soaking the majority of hits. So it's a really nice combo. Definitely try it out if you haven't, especially if you're bored of Jester. Next one, we finally got a Hellion team in here. And we have Vestal. Are we gonna run Seraph? Okay, this was when I fought a boss, so. What else can we swap in? Probably something like this. So we could run Seraph and... oh, I said Hellion, excuse me. And Ravager. And the reason these two work together very well is that Hellion scales very well with positive tokens buffing her. You know, she has her low HP passive, so she does more damage when she's under half life, and then again under a quarter life. And then Ravager gives her a big damage boost, and she can hit really hard with her base skills. So like Wicked Hack, 6 to 10 is pretty good. Same with Swan, and then Howling In goes up to 10 to 18, which is really good. And so being able to put strength on top of that, or guaranteed crit through upgraded Consecration, for instance, like this. It doesn't show you what it does here, which I wish they did, but yeah, so upgrading Consecration of Light gives you 25% chance of crit token. All of those tokens are really, really good for Hellion, and so it helps her scale up very well. Plus, Vestal can guard her to keep her at low HP, you know, and be safe, and she can heal her, clear bleed if she's bleeding from Ravager and stuff like that. And it's a very potent combo. You know, having Vestal dumping really good tokens onto people each turn is welcome by most of the cast, but Hellion seems to do a bit better with them, I would say. And so I like these two together. They're very cool and fun, and Vestal's pretty flexible. You can put her up front and run like Chaplain or something, you know, just run a different bonk Vestal type of path. And I can't administrations here, so why am I talking like I'm streaming? Yeah, there you go. So something like this, and run Chaplain. So really fun duo. Hellion's gonna stay on. We're gonna run Runaway. I was trying to give everyone 2 pairs. The only one that doesn't get one, I think, is Grave Robber, which that's more the fact she's just so independent that you know, you can just kind of drop her with most people. But with Hellion and Runaway, probably suggest Arsonist. You can run Orphan too. I prefer the consistency of Arsonist personally, but I know people like Orphan. And there are a couple good things with these two. And so you have the ability to, what is it? You can do a lot of range damage over time with Firefly, which Hellion is more of a direct damage focused character. But what really comes into play here is Smokescreen. And so if you are running a Wicked Hack build, which is still plenty effective and plenty fine, this gets bonus damage with combo. And so once you have combo getting that 50% damage, it's 9 to 15, which is almost Howling End damage without the cooldown and the downside of, you know, winding yourself. And, you know, you get that from Smokescreen Plus. So you get combo plus Vuln. And so you can have some really explosive Wicked Hack turns if you don't have Howling End unlocked, or if you just don't want to run it. But there's other stuff too. You know, you can get the damage and Vuln for, like, if it bleeds, bleed out hits, you know, decently hard as just a regular hit. So there's a lot of synergy here. And like I said, Ravager has the self bleed, which you can cure. And the other thing that's really nice about these two is that they're not really fighting for space. You can just put them at opposite ends of the group and they're fine. But if you do want to change it up and run something like, let's see, Dragonfly, for instance, you know, when you Howling End with Hellion, you know, it pushes you back 1 space, and then Runaway can Dragonfly and push herself back, and Hellion stays in 1. So there's plenty of synergy between these two, and it's really whatever you're trying to lean into. Are you trying to just get huge on-hit damage from Smokescreen, or are you trying to keep Hellion up front, or do you just want like a versatile approach where there's a little burn, little Smokescreen, little utility, stuff like that? Very fun combo. Runaway's gonna stay on. I don't know why I'm talking like that, it just feels appropriate. But another one we're gonna run is with Leper. So I think, did Leper get 3? He did. Good job, Leper. And so kind of the same reason that Jester's really good with Leper and Occultist is you have a really good way to feed combo tokens to Leper, but, you know, Smokescreen Plus is insane as a button. This is one of the best abilities in the entire game. And so having the double blind for Leper on the enemy keeps him safe, you know, so he doesn't get hit as much while he's tanking. Then you combo them, so you can for sure hit them through blind, and then you have the vulnerable on top, so Leper hits even harder. And that's a really nice combination to have. So like every other turn, you can just set up a, you know, hopefully big hit. Hopefully you don't, you know, low roll and get like 10 damage. But, you know, you can crit really hard too. And the other cool things about it are that, what is it? You have Hearthlight, which upgraded clears blind, which can be helpful if you don't, like if you're trying to alternate between Smokescreen and Hearthlight. And then it also removes stealth, so, you know, if there's any stealth targets up front, Leper can hit those. And then finally, Leper has very bad resists. If I can find that right here. So his resists are pretty bad. And bleed is the most common damage over time type in the game. And so this way you have Cauterize at least to possibly help with that. All right, we got 2 more. And then we are done with the video. And the next one is Jester and the Encore button. I alluded to this earlier, but having Jester plus Encore plus literally anyone else in the game is really good, because Encore can be any other skill in the game, and there's a lot of benefits to getting an extra turn. Once you proc Encore, you don't take any damage over time effects, so if you're on Death's Door and you're bleeding, you can actually Encore and then like pass heal out of it, which is really good. And other things that require, you know, some setup like Chaotic Offering. If Jester goes first, you can Encore Occultist. He can use Chaotic Offering. And then when Occultist's real turn comes around, or his original turn, or whatever you want to call it, he gets the other unchecked power token. So on turn 1, he can drop Burning Stars or Anamnesis or Malediction. So it's a really, really good setup. So if you don't think Encore is good, start using it. Like, just throw it on anyone. You can do some crazy stuff. And the final good pair, we didn't forget about him, is Man-at-Arms and every other character in the game. Much like Encore, for, you know, different reason, Man-at-Arms pairs well with anyone. He can always find something to do on any team. He dismantles almost all the bosses in the game, depending on his kit. And he doesn't really have a major weakness. So, having trouble, put Man-at-Arms on the team. It gets better. Alright, that's gonna do it for the video. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you think down below in the comments. What other stuff you want to see, whatever, and some duos I might have missed. I'll see you next time.